When it comes to AI, it's also very important that we build systems that are ethical, reliable, and responsible, and most importantly, explainable.
One of the incredible things of the moment that we are in right now is probably that there are no technological limits that we earlier used to have. What are the similarities or differences do you see from the previous disruptions to the AI now?
Now, this is an inflection point. It's like a point where things are going to be much more exponential, much more faster, and it's a point of no return, and it's a point of divergence. It could take multiple paths.
I was just reading up this. For 50 years, protein engineering has baffled scientists. With just 20 amino acids, yet trillions of permutation combinations possible. But with the right combination, it is the basis of everything, right from drug discovery to disease-fighting breakthroughs. But then unlocking the right combination meant years of trial, failures, and dead ends. That was until 2020, and that's when Google's DeepMind released AlphaFold, an AI-based system that predicted protein structures with breathtaking accuracy and solving in days which once took decades. This is when I read this, that when intelligence meets engineering, magic happens. When we build systems that just not compute but understand.
Brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely, such intelligence when they meet innovations and engineering. Time shrink and complexities just dissolve, and new pathways emerge that kind of accelerate us in doing things and applying these innovations in our day-to-day lives. Imagine DeepMind is the same technology that fuels Gemini today, and we have OpenAI and ChatGPT, and bringing these scientific discoveries, the kind of complexities that are involved. Imagine applying that to mainstream business, right? So let's take retail, right? And imagine a futuristic commerce. What could that be? Let's say a VR-driven conversational commerce that's kind of powered by an intelligent network of agents, which are powered by multimodal LLMs and which hook into traditional supply chain systems and make the magic of delivering to your doorstep, or your footsteps, with the drones, right? Planning on the nitty-gritties and stuff. And that's like taking commerce to the next levels of delightful evolution for our futuristic consumers, right? And what does it really mean to build or engineer AI that matters? And actually, engineering is the glue here, right? It's the important glue. It's about the detailing. It's about the nitty-gritties of taking this path-breaking idea, innovation, to the scale of the business and the volumes, and giving it shape, right? Mm-hmm. It's like taking an uncut diamond and then polishing and then giving it the sheen and shine, and taking it through the rigorous processes of building a very reliable system. It's all about designing, architecting, crafting, and detailing a system that flawlessly works day after day when it is needed. And when it comes to AI, it's also very important that we build systems that are ethical, reliable, and responsible, and most importantly, explainable. Which means whatever the intelligence that comes out, how accurate And how clear is that in helping me making my decisions and making the difference to the business? So it's all about like shaping this with non-functional requirements, and then that's what is all engineering is about, right? Uh, Making things robust, sturdy, and something that is stronger, that withstands the stress of time, yeah, and the scale.
Absolutely, Siva. So I think you've covered a lot of nuggets, which we will probably slowly uncover during this discussion. One of the incredible things of the moment that we are in right now is probably that there are no technological limits that we earlier used to have, right? And I feel so fortunate to witness and be part of this transformation as it unfolds. And in today's discussion, we will be going in depth into AI in engineering, how it's reshaping the way we think, build, innovate, and the impact that we are creating with it in PS. Before we deep dive, let's start off with a quick round of introductions.
Hi, I'm Siva Sundar, Siva in short. I lead the SDE craft and part of Core AI in delivery. The SDE craft is about full stack polyglot engineers who are problem solvers and basically work around the PE mindset. That's the tribe I lead. And I've been around for almost 3 decades, architecting, designing, building solutions, platforms, and frameworks, seeing through different paradigms shifts, right from client server days to cloud to now to the AI evolution. That's about me.
And I'm Sudha. I'm an SD at PS. Siva, personally, I'm very curious to know this. When you started your career, probably in 1995, if I got the year right, you've seen, seismic tech waves, right? Right from internet explosion to cloud revolution, and now we have the AI tidal wave. So from your vantage point, what are the similarities or differences do you see from the previous disruptions to the AI now?
That's a very, very interesting question. And one has to look into the history to make sense of what's happening now and what's the future and where it's going to take us. And all the shifts that you mentioned about have some or the other way depending upon technological advancements to a great extent, right? So to answer that question, I need to look back a little in the history and how this happened. So there was a time when chips started shrinking, storage became cheap, compute became abundant and inexpensive. And at the same time, I'm talking about the time between 95 till 2005 time frames when cloud emerged. And internet was taking shape. And in parallel to the hardware, there was also amazing changes that were happening in communication side, like starting from the fibers and how the dot-com boom kind of fueled I would say the information highway across continents. And you would be amazed to delve into the world of how the deep sea cables connect us and the internet that we use in our mobile or on our laptops, like how seamless it seems to be, how easy it is, but there is so much of sophistication involved around, and this was all built in that time period. And even today, I think AT&T owns 70% plus of the deep sea cables around the world. So compute increased, and this happened. Communication channels opened up, and consumer behaviors are also changing around. And thanks to primarily the disruptors, and the disruptors were the Amazons of the world, the Airbnbs, and starting from Google per se, right? So what they did was to kind of like write this combination of tech, compute, and the communications waves to take their disruptive services to the masses, right? So the scale exploded. Not in billions, I would say, still in millions, and then internet was primarily to laptops and systems, right? So then that scale pushed for cloud, and the emergence of cloud and the data centers transformed into compute services on cloud to be more elastic and deal with this kind of scale. And then came the advent of mobile, along with 4G, 5G, and that kind of took us, the e-commerce, towards the next level, to the mobile commerce. And you started you and me as consumers started trading, doing our internet banking, doing our searches, and doing our purchases right from our mobile, right? So this happened, and this exponentially triggered or took the wave, to a much higher and higher scale and volumes, right? From millions to billions. So this is the scale, and all these were the technological advances. And in one or the other way, all of these were impacting us as customers and our consumer behaviors. When I say consumer behaviors, not only how we are buying things, but also how we are consuming information, right? So Google shrunk the whole world and gave us in one search box. So anything and everything, you become the expert. Now let's move towards today and the AI. What does this AI tidal wave mean and how it's compared to our past? Now this is an inflection point. It's like a point where things are going to be much more exponential, much more faster, and it's a point of no return, and it's a point of divergence. It could take multiple paths, right? And not only from a consumer's point of view or how consumers behavior. It's going to touch the core of how we do things. It could affect our DNAs altogether. Why do I say this? Because it's about dependencies. It is going to change the intelligence. This is building on the data. This is building on the compute. This is building on all the other things. And it's going to change our lifestyle. It's going to change our growth paths, our livelihoods, right? Because it's like having a genie with you, right? You can take up any complexities or any new challenges, or whatever that you have been doing today. Let's say it was taking days together, that you're cutting down into hours, right? So we spoke about the journey from decades to days and days to hours, and that's the reality that we are facing today. And the pace at which this is happening is tremendous, and it's too fast. Imagine the telecom providers today have started bundling AI and giving it to us, and we have it in our mobile whether we want it or not today, right? So we are adopting, and it's already on us implicitly, right? For the past advances gave us time for both as a consumer, the disruptors, as well as the rest of the world to catch up. Yeah, there was time for enterprises to modernize themselves, build and shape their businesses to address the scale, volumes, adopting this technology, investments and stuff, over a decade and a half. So that's what it took for the e-commerce bit. But the mobile commerce was half the time, because everything was there already. And now it's the investments are even upfront. right? And there are billions, everybody is investing, and the adoption is not a choice anymore, not an option, right? You need to adopt and evolve and be at it continuously by making AI your friend. And it could be an acquired taste, but either you do it or be left out, and which you can't imagine. So that's the difference what I see between the previous tech waves and what AI has given us. There are also other parts of AI. Is it going to be beneficial, or like the harms of AI and stuff? And you listen to Jeffrey Hinton, the creator of AI, he cautions us, right? So I think it's kind of a balance that we would need to wisely adopt, not to be left out. At the same time, making AI as a friend, and when we are building solutions as engineers, build solutions in such a way that are reliable, that are controllable, right? That also matters. So it's going to change your life for sure. On a lighter note, we have already started using AI for recipes, for my kids' homeworks, right? And for anything and everything, right? Even AI has started, taking the role of a coach, a counselor, so it's happening too fast.
Interesting. I'm probably going to take a few seconds to process what you've said, because there are a lot of things that you've covered. One of the important or interesting things that I found in what you said is AI is indispensable in our lives. That's what you foresee. And the pace of change is going to be exponential, right? Now, if that AI is going to be so important with the hindsight and the experience that you have, what is that one thing that we need to do so that we get ahead in AI? Or let me just rephrase it. If we have to do something totally different so that we can ride the tide, what would it be?
Unfortunately, there is not one learning. There are multiple. So unlike the previous waves, I said, like, we are moving very fast, and and it's already there, and all that stuff. The key element what I see is the lack of time, right? And the window for errors and the course corrections, or recovery from that, is going to be extremely small and extremely expensive. What I mean is this. We moved from client server systems to distributed systems, and then microservices, and then started dealing with scale for millions and billions of users, D2C, B2C consumers. So the enterprises had time for fixing their systems. Let's say, we ended up building monolithic services, which was an intermediate between client server systems and full-blown microservices, fine-grained microservices, and containerization, and having that granular control. So enterprises could take the hit of, hey, losing businesses or performances on festive seasons, or and then course correct themselves immediately after, and take measures in their next seasons. AI is not going to give us that space or time, because we are dealing with something with intelligence, right? When we are building agentic solutions and agents, different types of agents, right? And of course, you would want to invest and build on intelligent agents which are able to take their decisions, which are able to kind of integrate with different data sources, take the data, and every time you run and find a path forward, It could certainly be different based on the current state of data and the events that are available to the agents. So when we stand up certain things up fast to meet the demands, of course, you're not going to wait until the tides are subsiding to take a dip, right? That's never the case in the business. You need to jump in and you need to ride the wave, but you need to do so a little more cautiously, a little more planned, with high levels of awareness and respect, I would say, to AI, because it's not just a technology. It's something of intelligence that we are dealing with, and what we are building today will become, the stepping stones for future. And we need control. These are black boxes. Even the LLM houses like Anthropic, they are doing a lot of research and insights in figuring out how things work, inside an LLM, right?
Yeah.
So they are still figuring out, and this intelligence is only evolving and increasing from where we started with ChatGPT 2.0 and 3.5 a couple of years back to where we are standing today. Is like we are talking about, hey, you know what? How can I build an agent in a day and deploy it to production? And imagine a situation where you have hundreds of these agents, and the future is going to be this, right? So anything and everything, your travel, your purchases, your studies, every industry is going to adopt agents, and they're going to augment their traditional processes and businesses. So inevitably, a lot of this work will transfer to be done by the agents. And if the agents are not done right the first time, right, then the cycles lead towards agentic debt. Okay, like the tech debt and the business debts what we are used to, this is going to lead to agentic debt, and invariably it is going to hit businesses, and not only businesses, it's also going to hit people. So awareness and respect of hey, we are dealing with something that we don't have a granular control on, and it is evolving. I'm just quoting and looking at Jeffrey Hinton here more than or equally importantly to the other advances that what we're making. So engineering becomes center stage. We need to do engineering right the first time. Engineering in more rigorously, making sure the guardrails are well in place. There are recovery mechanisms. There is good amount of monitorability, ability to trace back the decisions that agents are taking, to what conditions and what data inputs, and how these agents are talking to other agents internally and externally. So it's a collective awareness, engineering, and the spirit of doing it right the first time are what I would like to do better or differently, applying hindsight and also futuristic caution.
Interesting. That leads me to my next question. So far, tech disruptions have always delivered massive gains to business. Uniquely this time, we also see massive productivity gains for developers. Now, for example, the time to market has shrunk and it is shrinking, and probably smaller teams have now more potential to do more. Now, with this, what changes do you see happening to the internal processes at the ground level? Do we need more smarter agile workflows, or do we need to adopt different engineering rituals that we need to embrace to move ahead?
Well, you spoke about productivity gains and business gains. AI actually has two sides of the coin. AI adoption in specific has two sides of the coin. First is about internal efficiencies that directly ties to the productivity gains that what you're looking at. And the second part is about applying AI for solving complex business problems, right? So that's the second side of the coin. and both are needed for internal process changes. When we are looking at the workforce adopting AI in day to day, both the sides of the coins are needed. Because in our AI DBT engagements, we have been the pioneer for DBT. Now we're augmenting it with the power of AI. And AI assisted agile is our framework to make this happen on a day-to-day engagement. So there are engagements where, like, we partner with our clients for their modernization journeys in building, like, non-AI solutions. Let's say a quick commerce solution that a retail giant would want to invest on, or or on the other hand, build an AI augmented supply chain optimization system. In both the cases, right? We need to start with an AI first mindset. That's the crux and the need. You're not alone in terms of solving a problem, right? Unlike the past, now you have a genie along with you to help. So let it be, cutting down, writing 100 lines of code over a day or two to, one prompt, and then you getting that snippet and a great starting point to run with it. Not only for coding, but it is applicable equally from all the works of the SDLC, starting from requirements till the end. And equally in our design and solutioning, you could adopt, AI. So AI first mindset is about that, that awareness that the way I use my Outlook, the way implicitly I use my File Explorer or my Excels, I should start I should start conversing with AI and leveraging these tools to say that, hey, as a sounding board, as a sparring partner, how can AI help me in doing my day-to-day job as well as solving problems? That's the AI first mindset, and that's the base. And build on top of it, we need to bring in the tools and enable the processes. So now I could start with a vague requirement and kind of take iterations to shape it. And I could just use a set of either our open source tools or our internal tooling ecosystem or Slingshot for that matter, or Backlog AI, whatever, and say that, hey, here's my requirement. How do I refine it? How do I, get to the details of it and elaborate it in no time? And same, I can go ahead with my designs, documentation, and let it be my architectural views. I describe my problem and, ask the AI to come up with a logical architecture view, or even a physical view, or a connected view, and, sequences, and I can generate all the diagrams and the low-level design, and I can hand it over to the teams. Teams can start looking, hey, start using Slingshot day in, day out as part of their IDE to say that, hey, here's my code base, and then I need to implement this story, this feature today, and how best can I do it? It goes seamlessly. So it's a combination of the mindset, augmented and enabled with the tools, with the redefined LC. So what basically we are doing is redefining SDLC as we have been practicing until now, right? So curiosity, the mindset, the process, and the changes to the process, and how we are going to do it with the tools. And this is how I'm looking at, our internal processes are going to change by adopting.